Hello, I'm Prathyush, and today I want to talk to you about Dunki. Writer, editor, and director Rajkumar Hirani has rather helpfully theorized his craft for us, following what he calls the LCD principle, where a scene is either supposed to make you laugh, cry, or pulp you with drama. It's a careful scientific emotional manipulation, scripting a scene for the heart to cerebrally make something visceral. This heart-head dichotomy is a conservative idea, that we think differently, feel differently, each being distinct from one another. That we cannot feel through thought, that we cannot think through feelings. Besides, the itch here is when you can see through the narrative trickery so clearly. To see where the director wants you at emotionally, and to see where you are at emotionally, and to not know what to do with that unbridgeable chasm. To see Dunki then is to stare into that chasm with a lethargic vertigo. Rajkumar Hirani has made a career out of love, and with this love to poke holes at institutions we deem essential to our lives. Hospitals, colleges, even religion. There is no irony, because where there is irony, there can be no love. There isn't a snarky bone in his cinema. It's a sincere revolution whose weapon of choice is the glycerine monologue. With Dunki, he turns this tender gaze towards the immigration system, the rigmarole that visas, passports, and borders require. It is, no doubt, a grander, more ambitious global institution that Rajkumar Hirani has chosen to scrape at here. That ambition, then, needed not just more heart, but more thought too. To advocate for the reform of educational institutions is far less daunting task than asking to reform the whole global system of borders, immigration, and the capital that girds it all. But this is the task that Hirani and his co-writers Abhijat Joshi and Kanika Dhillon have set for themselves.
100 साल राज करके गए अंग्रेज हम पे जब ये यहाँ आए थे हमने तो नहीं इनसे पूछा था कि भाई हिंदी आती है क्या जब हमने इनको नहीं रोका था तो ये कौन होते हैं हमको रोकने वाले.
Manu, played by Taapsee Pannu, who gets top billing here, Bugu, played by Vikram Kochar, and Bali, played by Anil Grover, are residents of Laltu, a village in Punjab. They want to go to London to make money. This is the 1990s. They meet Hardy, played by Shah Rukh, a Fauji who airdrops into their lives, and together they chart an illegal route, the Dunki route, after all their attempts at legal immigration fail, given that they are lacking in qualifications, no education, linguistic, cultural, or financial capital to speak of. It's right here the film begins wobbling. The central flux of the story itself is never convincing. Why do these people want to go to London, as though there was no alternative between Pind and Pardes? Their poverty isn't grinding enough to make the rough passage between the continents feel worthy. The travel itself is so airbrushed it feels neither desperate nor sincere. Some of their companions are gunned down in the process, and their death is registered as a shrug. All characters are one question away from realizing the futility, the redundancy, and the ridiculousness of this endeavor. The second related flux, and this is my moral quandary with the film, is that it wants to both express love for India while also trying to establish with truth that people want to leave this country. Unemployment is never brought up. The lacking opportunities that pervade Punjab, leaving many families to languish in the village, is not brought up. Drug addiction and ailing epidemic there is not even on the radar of this world. It's just that they want to leave. That the British plundered us, and that between the British and the present, there was no Indian state that could have paved an alternative path. It's troubling that the film wants to equate people wanting to leave India for economic opportunities to mass movements that happen because of war, famine, and genocide. Hardy argues at the end, they all die anyways. To watch Dunki when land in real time is being forcefully emptied of its inhabitants is to see a tantrum that demands the sincerity of your affection, but has not afforded its intention more introspection. Hardy asks, if flamingos can fly without a visas, why can't we? What have we as a human race done to ourselves? Where do I begin?
रजत साहब, मुझे मेरे देश में कोई खतरा नहीं है. मेरा देश जैसा है, मेरा है. मैं यहाँ रहने के लिए अपने देश को गाली नहीं दूंगा.
Hirani's films, like Hardy says in a moving stretch of dialogue, are textbook examples of fighting against asani se dushmani. But at what point do you refuse to distinguish being simple from being simplistic? Besides, the emotional register of this film, a combination of its toying score and piecemeal writing, is an awkward, unsteady landscape. When a son breaks the FD of his working mother to get his visa and is scammed, the film tries to tilt this tragedy into comedy. Who's lost to frame as worthy of pain and who's to make pleasurable? Similarly, Hardy's physical altercation at a wedding in London keeps swinging between melodrama and comedy, approaching both, reaching neither. The problem that is immediately apparent with Dunki is that characters seem to live too much of their lives off-screen. Their dialogues then become spaces not to articulate the present, but the past. The film is constantly rumbling into backstories. For too long into the film, you're waiting for the film to truly begin. The screenplay cannot seem to move forward without explaining the past, and so characters are never really present. So then, when all the dust settles in the end and characters are forcefully made to be present, to celebrate this presentness of their being after all that drama, those torturous journeys and homesick years, it feels like two biographies colliding, not two people. A brief aside to discuss what I think is the emotional core of the film, Vicky Kaushal's cameo. Vicky Kaushal has established himself as a presence that can transcend the film. He has a small role in Dunki of a lovesick man who wants to go to London to save his lover from an abusive marriage. And in his dialogue delivery, that huffing one-take scene of him rumbling through punctuation and grammar, or that rum-drenched heartbroken scene, he's able to evoke an entire world, his entire backstory emerging into emotional shape. Once he exits the film's stage, the second half becomes an emotional wasteland, lulling without tension, humor, or pathos. I am coming dangerously close to using a word I would never have imagined in connection with Raju Hirani's craft, and that is an aesthetic.